The Eagles had a real opportunity against Chicago, and it is hard not to feel that they let it slip through their fingers. Watching the game, you could see the team doing what was expected in many moments, but the results didn't reflect that. A lot of fans have been talking about Tanner McKee, some even suggesting that he should be starting over Jalen Hurts. From my perspective, it's not really the quarterbacks who are the problem. Tanner had moments where he could have made a play, especially on short yardage situations where running could have been the smarter choice, but he opted for passes instead, sometimes forcing throws that ended up incomplete. The green light was there in front of him, but the decision-making seemed overly cautious. Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, has that mobility and instinct that can extend plays, create opportunities where none seem to exist, and that contrast really highlights the limitations of both the backup quarterback and the play calling. You watch Tanner McKee, and you can't help but notice how the coaching staff's decisions exposed him more than the defense ever could. Before diving into the mistakes, it's fair to recognize some positives from the game. One thing that stood out to me is the performance of the rookies on the offensive line. Drew Kendall versus Cam Jurgens was an intriguing matchup. Kendall, despite being a rookie, looked confident and played solidly against the starting defensive line. Cam Williams at right tackle also held his own, and Fred Johnson seemed more comfortable at left tackle than at right. The line had moments of pressure, but most of it stemmed from questionable play calls rather than poor blocking. Overall, there were bright spots with several players stepping up. Darius Cooper and Jahad Dawson made plays that kept drives alive, and while some fans were quick to criticize Cooper for penalties or minor mistakes, the reality is that Tanner McKee's interception was a clear individual error that had nothing to do with those plays. It was a misread, a poor decision, and it is unfair to pin that on anyone else. Looking deeper at McKee's performance, statistically, he had an average game for a backup quarterback. Completing 21 of 40 passes for over 200 yards and a touchdown is respectable, but 2 interceptions underline the risk of relying on a backup in high-pressure situations. He has the talent to start for a handful of teams that may need a bridge quarterback, but for the Eagles, he remains a reliable backup. The bigger concern is how the coaching staff handled the game plan. Kevin Patullo's insistence on having a backup throw 40 passes, especially in a critical part of the season, was baffling. There were moments in the fourth quarter where the play calling lacked creativity, relying on predictable throws and high-risk decisions rather than leveraging the running game or the mobility of Hurts to control the clock and maintain momentum. Tank Bigsby, for instance, was producing consistent yardage on the ground, yet the focus stayed on forcing throws downfield rather than balancing the attack. These decisions exemplify the systemic coaching problems that have become more apparent as the season progressed. The defense had its highs and lows as well. Trotter Jr. stood out as a player with legitimate starting potential in the league. His instincts, ability to read plays, and execution in tackling situations were impressive, but the competition behind the line remained stiff, making his path to regular starting time a challenge. The linebackers as a group played well, though coverage lapses by key players were noticeable. Ty Robinson's conditioning raised concerns toward the end of the game, as his speed and agility seemed diminished, which is alarming considering the responsibilities he carries. Cornerbacks Jory and Bennett struggled significantly, committing multiple defensive pass interferences and making coverage mistakes that put the team at risk. Keely Ringo, in particular, had a critical misstep at the goal line, turning his back on a scrambling quarterback and allowing a touchdown that should have been prevented. These lapses were frustrating to watch, and they highlighted why resting starters for the playoff push is such a critical strategy. Despite these issues, the core defensive unit remains formidable, and with proper adjustments, they are capable of excelling in postseason matchups. On the positive side, the Eagles' playoff picture is secure, and there is confidence building around the team as they prepare for the postseason. Jason Kelce has expressed strong belief in the team's ability to perform under pressure, noting the exceptional talent and experience on both sides of the ball. The offensive line is getting healthier, Lane Johnson is returning, and Jalen Hurts' unique ability to make plays in the running game remains a game-changer. The defensive unit has been historically effective in recent weeks, excelling in tackling, coverage, and pressuring the quarterback, which positions the Eagles favorably against potential playoff opponents. This combination of talent, health, and momentum is critical, particularly when facing West Coast teams that will be traveling across time zones. Expectations for the Eagles' offense in the playoffs remain high. Fans and analysts anticipate that the team will play with more aggression, creativity, and adaptability. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devonta Smith have demonstrated the ability to take control of the game when the stakes are highest, and there is reason to believe that their instincts and talent will allow them to overcome predictable play calling or defensive schemes designed to contain them. The key for the coaching staff will be to maximize the unique skills of these athletes while mitigating risks and avoiding repetitive mistakes seen during the regular season. With the right adjustments, the Eagles can capitalize on their offensive and defensive strengths to advance deep into the postseason and potentially replicate the success of past Super Bowl campaigns. One of the subtler dynamics in play is how opponents perceive the Eagles. Recent comments from players and analysts suggest that some teams might be hesitant to face them on the road, particularly in Philadelphia, where the environment and the passionate fan base create an intimidating setting. This psychological edge, combined with the physical talents and tactical knowledge present on the team, could be decisive in tight playoff matchups. Confidence, discipline, and execution will be essential, and the Eagles have shown the ability to rise to challenges when prepared correctly. The issues that remain, however, are clear. Offensive play calling must improve, especially in critical moments where predictable decisions have cost the team valuable yards or scoring opportunities. Balancing the run and pass, taking advantage of players' strengths, and demonstrating creativity in high-pressure situations will define whether the Eagles advance beyond the first round. Tanner McKee remains a capable backup, but relying on him in situations that demand more than basic execution highlights the need for sharper planning and strategic foresight from the coaching staff. The same applies to defensive matchups where conditioning, awareness, and disciplined execution must be maintained throughout the game. These factors will ultimately determine whether the Eagles can translate their talent and potential into consistent postseason success. Looking ahead, the Eagles' upcoming matchups will really test their adaptability and mental toughness. Playing against the San Francisco 49ers, for example, will be a benchmark for how much the team has learned from earlier mistakes. There's no question that the 49ers have a reputation for tough, disciplined football, but watching the Eagles in recent weeks, it is clear that confidence is high, and the players know they can impose their will if executed correctly. The psychological factor of playing at home cannot be overstated, especially with a passionate fan base creating an electric atmosphere. That energy feeds the team, particularly players like Jalen Hurts, whose ability to improvise under pressure thrives when the stadium is fully behind him. At the same time, the coaching staff has to recognize that relying solely on star talent without strategic creativity can backfire, as the season has already demonstrated. The offensive strategy will need to be diversified, mixing in a stronger running attack with clever use of motion and misdirection, so that defenses cannot predict the Eagles' moves. One of the biggest takeaways from the recent game against Chicago is the contrast between what the players are capable of and what the play calling allows them to do. Hurts has shown time and again that he can make things happen when the pressure is on, and receivers like A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith can create separation even against top-tier defenders. When the coaching staff leans too heavily on rigid patterns, the team's full potential is not realized. For a backup quarterback like Tanner McKee, the situation is even more delicate. He has the tools to manage a game, but without a dynamic game plan and support from the offensive line and running game, mistakes are amplified. This goes back to the systemic issue with offensive play calling, which has been highlighted repeatedly over the season. Creativity, situational awareness, and an understanding of player strengths are essential for converting close games into wins, particularly in playoff scenarios. Defensively, the Eagles continue to have strengths that can carry them deep into the postseason, but vulnerabilities remain. Schroeder Jr. has proven his ability to step up, but the depth chart is crowded, and younger players like Ty Robinson must reach peak conditioning to handle the demands of extended playoff games. The linebackers are talented, but their coverage skills and stamina are areas to monitor closely. Cornerbacks have been a weak point at times, with errors in key situations exposing the defense to unnecessary risk. Keely Ringo's misstep at the goal line serves as a stark reminder that execution must be flawless under pressure. Still, when the Eagles' defense is functioning at full capacity, they can disrupt even elite offenses, create turnovers, and dictate the tempo of the game. The key will be consistency and discipline, particularly in high-stakes matchups where every mistake is magnified. One of the more interesting dynamics for the Eagles moving forward is how opponents perceive them. Teams traveling across the country, facing a hostile stadium, and a team with a balanced mix of explosive playmakers are likely to approach games with caution. This perceived intimidation factor could give the Eagles an advantage in the early rounds of the playoffs, provided they maintain focus and don't rely solely on the fear factor. Confidence is a double-edged sword. It can elevate performance, but overconfidence can lead to complacency and critical errors. Balancing aggression with calculated risk will be essential, and the coaching staff must adapt quickly if they hope to advance. The Eagles have proven they can play with intensity and skill, but turning that into victories consistently requires discipline and intelligent adjustments. The running game is another area that could be decisive in playoff matchups. Tank Bigsby showed glimpses of effectiveness against Chicago, consistently gaining yards and keeping defenses honest. A balanced attack, leveraging both Hurts' mobility and a strong running game, can control the clock, wear down defenses, and set up play-action opportunities for the passing game. The offensive line, with Lane Johnson returning, is a critical factor here. If they can protect Hurts while creating running lanes, the Eagles will have the flexibility to vary their play calling and keep opposing defenses off balance. The challenge is ensuring that all these moving parts function together seamlessly, which is where the experience of veterans like Kelsey and others becomes invaluable. Special teams and situational football also deserve attention. In high-stakes games, field position, third down efficiency, and red zone execution can make the difference between advancing and being eliminated. The Eagles have shown the ability to capitalize in these areas, but mistakes like penalties or missed assignments can quickly undo progress. Discipline will be a recurring theme as the playoffs unfold. Every player must be aware of their responsibilities, from the skill positions to the trenches, because even a single misstep can have outsized consequences in tightly contested games. Watching the team adapt to these high-pressure moments will be fascinating and could determine whether they can reach another Super Bowl appearance. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL, Tyreek Hill has reportedly confirmed his arrival at the Philadelphia Eagles, sparking speculation about a seismic shift in the team's offensive dynamics. The league has long been no stranger to blockbuster trades, but the potential impact of Hill donning the green and white jersey has fans and analysts buzzing with anticipation. Known for his electrifying speed and game-breaking ability, Hill could provide the Eagles with the explosive threat they have been craving, potentially reshaping their strategy in the passing game. Hill's career has been defined by his uncanny ability to stretch defenses and create separation seemingly at will. Rumors have circulated for weeks about a potential landing spot, and Philadelphia has emerged as the frontrunner, with sources now suggesting that negotiations have reached an advanced stage. While official confirmations are scarce, insiders hint that both parties are enthusiastic about the fit, pointing to a possible partnership that could redefine the NFC East landscape. Speculation also swirls around how Hill's arrival might influence the Eagles' roster construction. Quarterback play will naturally be a focal point, with analysts questioning how the team's signal caller will adapt to Hill's unique style and speed. Meanwhile, coaching staff are rumored to be mapping out creative ways to integrate his talents into their existing scheme, potentially opening opportunities for other playmakers to shine as well. The addition of Hill could also ignite a domino effect, prompting shifts in the Eagles' depth chart and forcing opposing defenses to reconsider their game plans. For fans, The mere possibility of watching Hill in green and white is enough to ignite excitement, even as questions linger about timing, contract details, and long-term implications. Social media is already ablaze with speculation, with supporters imagining highlight reel catches and deep field threats that could make Philadelphia a must-watch team. While nothing is officially sealed, the whispers around Hill's move to the Eagles are growing louder by the day, fueling a rumor mill that could dominate NFL headlines for weeks to come. If the deal comes to fruition, it may not only redefine the Eagles' offense, but also send ripples throughout the league as other teams scramble to respond. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.